Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman. Guys, you might have seen this gentleman on the show before. This is his second time being on the show. Guys, when I went on my cruise in July, now I'm a 55-year-old guy and I'm walking around with children's books. I actually sat out on my porch looking over the ocean reading these books by my friend Doug. And I tell you what, it brought me back to being a kid again. And guys, if you're a parent, if you're a grandparent, you need to get these for your kids. You need to get these for your grandkids because they're great books, life lessons, and it helps kids stay kids. So, guys, we're also going to be talking about how to write a book and the things that we've learned between the two of us. We have soon to be 5 books. So I think we might know what not to do. And we'll be talking about those a little bit. So my brother, Doug, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me back, man. It's a lot's going on since last time we talked. That's for certain.
Yep. And I want to thank you. I hung out with Jasper. Jasper was with me in Florida. Jasper was with me in the Bahamas. So I just want to say those books were amazing. And I actually read them twice through, just hanging out on an island, just hanging out, reading about Jasper. So I just wanted to say thank you for sending those books. So first question is, before we get started, what is your definition of resiliency? And the reason why I want to ask it is because people think, oh, I'm going to write a book. It's going to get published. I'm going to make a lot of money. And I just sit home and collect checks. But in being an author, you have to be really resilient and learn how to take a lot of no's. So what is your definition of resiliency?
Yeah, I don't know if I've got so much a definition, but the big thing about resiliency is persistence, obviously, and just getting the word no out of your vocabulary. I'm sorry, not no, failure. Getting the word failure out of your vocabulary. You can't if you focus on failing at something, it is going to lock you up, and you're never going to get anywhere. You got to replace the word failure with learning, and you just got to keep persistently pushing through all those learning processes, and you will get to success on the other side. But you got to be persistent, and you got to not give up. The only time I guess you could say you really fail is when you quit.
All right, now I've had a lot of authors on the show, a lot of veteran authors. You are the only children's book author that is also a veteran. Because when I think veteran book, I'm thinking, Afghanistan, Iraq. I'm not thinking of Jasper on a beach. So just give us a quick down and dirty about who you are and how this whole thing started.
Yeah, I mean, just real quick, I did my 20 years in. I loaded A-10s and F-16s, loading bombs every day, 24/7 for 20 years. And I get a lot of teasing from the guys I loaded bombs with asking that same question. They're like, how in the world did you ever land on writing children's books? When, dare I say, it's kind of a macho job you had. I mean, throwing bombs around. I mean, it's kind of to go into something so docile as children's books. And, well, it's just reading to my kids. I thought I could write one someday. And I think we all maybe feel that way when we're reading to our children at a young age. And the idea just never came to me until my son caught a baby rabbit in the backyard, brought it in the house, named it Jasper, and let it go the next day. And I looked at my wife and I said, when Jasper the rabbit goes in the backyard and starts telling all of his little woodland friends that, hey, I spent the night in that people house over there overnight, are they even going to believe him? And the story just blossomed from there. And I had such early, because I thought I'd sell 30 copies. I had such early, it did so well so early on. I sold 500 copies. And that's when I really felt like God had his hand on it. And that if I just pushed it a little bit, we could see how far it would go. And one thing's led to another. Book 2, now book 3. We've got merchandise. I mean, it's just ballooning, and we're just plugging, getting the word out there. Quite honestly,
Okay, but now there's such thing as an idea, and then there's such thing as putting it into action. Because I know a lot of people have a lot of scraps of paper, a lot of napkins around the house where they've had ideas, but they never acted upon it and never actually put it into a framework to write a book. So what was that process like?
That process, it seems like it changes with each book. I got to be honest. So if you think you're going to run into the same process for every book that you write or publish, you won't. Each one is going to be different. Each one's going to come with its own little trials and tribulations. I made a post once that had a picture of a whole entire legal page of writing that I had done, because I write with just pencil and paper, just write it all down. And quite honestly, on it, the whole thing is scribbled out, but one line. And that that whole sheet legal script, I just used one line. So I mean, it's a lot of work. If you want to try to do it to where it's, you're going to be happy with it, you're just not going to sit down and throw it together. It's just not going to happen that way.
So then I have a lot of people, especially mine, because mine are self-published. I like to control. I did the self-publishing thing. So just because you have a story, now you have to get it, if you want to, into the publisher's hands. What is that like, trying to, okay, I have a book, now what? So talk to us about what that process is.
Yeah, I've got what's called a hybrid publisher, so I do maintain a lot of the control over making it, but still they have to, you have to submit your manuscript and they'll either deny it or keep it. And I went through, I think I got 3 no's, and then the 4th publisher said they would do it with me. So I still am not traditionally published. I think that may happen down the road, as long as I get my marketing in line and everything. I think somebody might see it and be like, hey, let's see if we don't just go ahead and sign this guy and do some more stuff. But it's very nerve-wracking. The reason I picked the hybrid publisher is because if they pretty much, it's a one-stop shop, basically. You give them a little money up front and pay them a little bit per month, but they handle everything. They handle all the getting the ISBN numbers, the UPC numbers, the cover design, the page design, the illustrations. All that stuff is in their hands. They've got all that set up right there. Where if I did it by myself, I'd have to search out a publisher, or I'm not a publisher, an editor, an illustrator, cover design person. I'd have to search out where on the internet that I get an ISBN number or UPC number. And that can be pretty daunting. And I didn't want to dive that much into it all on my own, because I was such a novice. I felt like I could use that extra little hand that the hybrid publisher would give me and expedite the process a little bit.
No, it's not cheap to publish a book. I think my new book, which just came out, I think it was like $800 to get it edited, to get it the cover, to do all that good stuff. So it's not very cheap to write a book. I mean, you can write a book through Chat GPT, or you can self-publish an ebook. But for me, I think people like, I'm old school. I like to have a copy in my hand. I like to hold. I like to turn over covers. I like to write in my books. So do you think it's good to have an ebook and also a hardcover book also?
Yeah, I actually do all 3. I've got the hardcover, the soft cover, and the ebook. They all take care of all that. And the main reason I went ahead and kept doing the ebook is I do hear some feedback from parents. And sometimes, I mean, the kid will have a tablet. The children will have a tablet, and they'll just, they can put it on the tablet and they can look at it then. And that's just the way some people are these days. I'm kind of like you. I like the pages. I don't know if I could get into reading the book online.
Okay, so now you have the book, and then you have the publisher. But for me, I had to learn how to market. I didn't know what marketing was. I didn't know. I'm sitting there YouTubing. I'm watching YouTube videos, and I'm like, all right, how do I market this book? Because you can have a book on Amazon, and it's going to sit there unless people know that it's out there. So tell us about that learning curve.
Yeah, you think you're going to write a book and you get it published and it's all going to be gravy. But now that you've written your book, you are now turning into a marketing expert, dare I say. I'm nowhere near a marketing expert, but that is now your new full-time job after the book is written. And I did the same thing you did. It's like you just start cruising through the internet, trying to find all kind of marketing ideas and how you're going to do it. And the first thing I did was I already was on Facebook for myself. So it's like, all right, well, obviously Jasper needs a Facebook page. So we set up and got Jasper a Facebook page. And obviously now I'm going to, since my book gets lost in searches on Amazon, unless you type the name of the book in or my name, you're going to go through probably 150 pages before you would ever find my book in just a general children's book search. So now I need a website so I can direct people directly to the pages, because I've got links on the website that they can click on to buy, and it'll take you right to the Amazon page. So directing them to a website with that on it, to me anyway, made more sense than trying to increase my standings in Amazon. I have a feeling that's like trying to nail Jello to a wall. I think that's a constant changing algorithm that nobody ever really knows how it works. And I didn't want to waste. I don't have time to waste. So it's like, let me do some hard, fast things I know I can direct people to that'll get them to my book.
All right. So, but a lot of people, Mark, my brother, welcome to the show. Thank you for hanging out. But, a lot of people, they want to go global. Like when they put a book out or something, they want to go global, and they kind of forget they have a warm market. Like for me, if I was going to write a children's book, there's literally a school 100 yards from my house. There's like 5 local schools just for kindergartens here. So, for me, if you have to, in order to be successful, I think, is you need to work from your warm market out instead of working from your cold market in, because people already know who you are. So once they know you have a book out, is it easier to get your name out when you start working like getting it into schools and stuff like that and locally, or is it harder?
I think it's easier. I probably did that backward. I'm not going to lie to you, because I right away wanted this to be known to the world. I wasn't focused properly, and I'm not ashamed to say that because I didn't know what I was doing anyway. So we're backing up a little bit and trying to do more of that local stuff. And I did do a relatively decent job of getting into local libraries, in the county libraries, the school libraries, that sort of thing. So I did back up a little bit and get in there, because I was so wrapped around the axle about getting my books in stores that I probably lost sight of the vision just a little bit, and maybe the path I should be taking. But we need to back up and regroup on that. My main problem is I don't have the strongest voice, and everybody wants me to come read to their schools. And I tried that once, and even with a microphone, I can't project. And when you get into an auditorium with like 150 kids, like I was for at least 2 of the classes, it didn't. I mean, the kids loved it. Don't get me wrong. It just didn't project well. And then when I went to the third room with about 50 kids, they gave me a microphone, but I couldn't even really get that thing to work unless I had it like almost eating it, and it's like that was uncomfortable. So I just tried to project a little bit more. And with only being 50 kids, I think I got a little bit better response. So that's kind of something I got to work through a little bit. Being an introvert, my voice just doesn't project like it used to. I did have, and I'm not saying this for sympathy or anything, I did have a hiatal hernia, and they did repair that. And during the process of doing that, they do stretch your esophagus out a little bit and secure some stomach tissue around it while they sew up your diaphragm. And I think that tightening the esophagus up a little bit, I think, in the diaphragm kind of cuts down on the volume I can get out. But for others that can handle that, that's the way to go. You need to get out there and probably read your book to folks. With my voice, I can do maybe a preschool with like maybe 25, 30 kids. But that's about all I'm going to be able to get out there.
Okay, but now, book 1 is out there. And then a lot of people would have said, you know what? The book only sold 500 copies. Maybe it's not my thing, and I'm going to move on to the next selling widgets, or I'm going to move on to this. What would made you write book 2? I'm saying 500 copies. That's great, but a lot of people would have, because we're taught that that if it doesn't blow up the first time, big time, then maybe it's not meant to be. But you went on and wrote book two, and in my opinion, I like book two better than book one.
I did as well, and I think book three is even better. And if you don't feel that way as an author, I don't know that you're really growing. Each book you should feel like each book you do is better than the one you've done in the past. But yeah, what drove me and what just surprised me about book one is I sold 500 or so copies, but I was getting so much feedback. It's like, people, I want more. What's next? What are the characters going to do next? Where are you going with it? Are you going to write more books? I mean, I'm getting all these questions. And in my mind, I'm thinking I was going to be one and done because I figured it was a fun story that family was going to like. I didn't really know it was going to take off. So I was really caught off guard. And I didn't really know what the next subject would be. And we like to go to the beach on vacation. So I figured I'd figure out a way to get these woodland critters who've probably never even seen a beach off to the beach, and they could experience the beach for the first time, like many kids do. I mean, they can go on vacation with them, and they can experience a beach for the first time, and along with Jasper and his buddies. But it was and that's really when I started feeling like God had put me on the path. When you do something like that, and like you said, it didn't set the world on fire, but it set some people's lives on fire, and then they really wanted the next book. And so I think that's where I realized I was on a path that maybe God put me on, and I'm going to keep going because it's all the smiles you get, all the feedback, the smiles, the kids hugging their stuffed Jaspers. It really keeps you going.
All right. So now my first book that I wrote, I think it's 7 years now. I actually wrote on a yellow pad. And then I put it into computers. But now my latest book, I wrote strictly on a computer. I finally figured out what a Google Doc was. I didn't even know what the hell that was until my kids told me what it was. But so what did you learn from book one to book two about the process?
I'm kind of like you were. I mean, and still I'm writing book four, and I'm just on a legal pad writing paper, on paper. And I'm not much of an IT guy. I'm not very computer savvy. So for me to get on there and try to write and then edit and then correct this and correct that, to me, it's easier on paper. Between book one and book two, the process was pretty equivalent. Book two, I felt like I had a little bit better idea of how I wanted the books to go. As far as I got lucky on the first book, all the images, all the illustrations matched the words. And I didn't realize with the first book how important that was. So I started writing the second book. But I was getting a lot of feedback from the first book about, hey, kids that don't even know how to read can follow along with the story. The pictures are so great that they just follow along with the verbiage. And I'm like, wow, I got lucky on that because that thought never even crossed my mind. So I was more cognizant of it with the second book, and even more so with the third book. But that's important for a children's picture book, in my opinion, that even before a child can read, they can pick the book up even without mom and dad being around, and they can flip through it and still enjoy it and still follow the story. So that's important for a children's book. And that's probably the main thing I learned so far with the three books that I've written.
All right, so talk to us about book three, because I have the first two books, and I'll be getting the third book. So, what is the next? What is the next in the Jasper series? Because it's a series which I love. I'm a series guy, and I have plenty of books. I have the whole what's the name of it? The Rich Dad Poor Dad series. I'm a series guy. I love series. So, and I love that you're writing series that you can follow. You can get the book individually, but it's better when you get the first one, you read the second one, and then it follows a timeline.
Yeah, there's a little continuity to it. Yeah.
So talk to me. What's Jasper up to?
Yeah, he's going to the farm. This is not quite the exact cover. The title is a little bit different in the final product, but the rest of it's the same. And I didn't really know what to do for the third book either, because the second book caught me off guard, and as did the third book. I've had parents and grandparents say to me, will you please hurry up and write another book? My kid's wearing me out reading these first two books over and over again. So I fell back on my farmer background a little bit because we did move to Maryland and start a poultry farm when I was about probably 15 years old, somewhere around there. So I'm like, well, let's send the guys to the farm. And I'm thinking to myself, it's like, well, which character would live on a farm? So I didn't really have to introduce a new character in the third book. And I figured, mice, you find mice on a farm. So they can't find their little friend Mouse. They don't know where he's at. And Jasper and his friends decide, well, let's go down. Mouse lives on the farm down the dirt road. Let's go see what he's up to. And this is the first one, dare I say, that maybe teaches a little bit more of a lesson. I don't really write my books to teach a lesson. I want them just to be fun. As you probably read in my ads that I write, it's like I want fun stories to let kids be kids, and I just want to quiet the noise of the world because there's so much garbage going on in the world these days. So Jasper goes down to the farm with his friends, and they meet Mouse. He's there. He's okay. He's just busy. And they're like, can you come out and play? Can we, play? And the Mouse is like, well, I'd love to, but I got all these chores I got to do because even, a mouse has chores at the farm. And he has to feed the animals, and they got to plant a garden. And they're like, well, sure, we'll help you. That's what friends do. And that would be maybe the lesson learned in book 3 that, even a mouse on a farm can have chores. And it's okay to have chores. And sometimes you got to do your chores before you can go out and have fun. And you've got friends to help you when you have rough times and maybe you're overwhelmed to take care of stuff. And so it was an unintentional lesson to be learned in book 3. But after I wrote it, I'm like, well, you know what? That's a pretty good lesson for kids too, to be quite honest with you. So
yeah, and and we have a lot of friends in common, and without Robert Garcia, I would have never written my first book. He actually edited it. He actually made the cover. So without Robert Garcia, I wouldn't even be doing what I'm doing right now. And I know, we both have that same, that love and affection for Mr. Robert Garcia. And like you said, I think I don't know what I don't know. So if I need to know about PR, public relations, that's the guy that I go to. So talk to us about how important is, especially if you're in business or if you're a writer, to make sure that you have mentors and friends that you can bounce ideas off of. How important is that?
Oh, for sure. And, you hear that when you're starting out in the marketing thing. And when I got into the Vet Tribe Facebook page and met Rob, and when I got on LinkedIn and I started meeting some of the people over there, and when you first get on there, you see all these things about how you really got to find your tribe. You got to find people that you can do that with. Yeah. And at first I'm like, what, I didn't quite grasp what they were getting at. You think it's like, well, it's me against the world. Well, it doesn't have to be. And you get out and you network and you meet guys like Rob and like you, and you can bounce ideas off of folks. And it's important that you do that. I'm losing my train of thought, but you need those folks. You need. There's so much negativity in the world. You need folks around you that are going to support you. And if you have a question, you can go ask. Because like you said, I don't know either what I don't know. And sometimes Rob or you or some of the folks I met on LinkedIn, I can just shoot you a quick message and be like, oh, I've been there. I can help you out. I know exactly what you're going through. And the big thing that also helps with, and I'll touch on here real quick, is the feeling that you don't belong doing what you're doing, the imposter syndrome. You write your first book, you write your second book, and you start to question yourself. It's like, am I just kidding myself, or is this really going to be a thing? And that's a big thing to get over as well. And it takes a good tribe and a good group of friends to really help you get through that and build you up a little bit. It's like, no, man, keep going. You're doing great. And that's huge. I don't know if I can find the words to express how huge that is. And Rob's been a big help, giving me little snippets of information.
Yeah. And and I tell everybody, like, I'm a podcaster, obviously I'm an author, but if you want to learn to do a certain thing, you need to join certain groups. Yeah. Like if I want to be an author, I'm part of CJ's group. If I'm going to be an author, I'm involved in a bunch of author groups. I'm involved in a bunch of podcast groups. If you're a mechanic, you should be involved in a bunch of mechanic groups. because you might want to be looking at something in an author's book and you're like, I never thought about doing that. And that's how you learn the things you don't know, is by being in a room that people that have already done it, because success leaves clues, right?
For sure. Yeah. That's you just got to, you got to reach out and you got to build that network. And I'm still building my network, as I am. I'm sure you are as well. That's part of another never ending process along with marketing. Always looking for, you never know when you're going to connect with that one person that's going to hook you up with a buyer that's going to put your books in Walmart. I mean, I'm battling a fly over here. It's not like I'm just swinging at you. But yeah, that's the thing. You got to keep networking.
So like me, I'm involved with Ingram Spark, and they got my book in Walmart, Barnes and Nobles, eBay. I'm like, how did my book get on eBay? But it's in like 20 or 30 different bookstores. So, but it was all because of Daniel Faust of the Vetpreneur Tribe. He says, hey, maybe you should check these guys out. I would have never heard of them if I didn't meet Daniel Faust 6 years ago at MIC DC. So it's always about the relationships. And like you said, you don't know who knows who that knows who that knows who, right?
Exactly. I always say that, God didn't bring me this far just to bring me this far. There's a contact out there waiting for me, but it's still up to me to go find them. God doesn't say it's going to be easy. He just says he'll be with you the whole trip. So you still got to put in the work.
And you got to put in the money.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, well, it's going to cost money. And it's called a success tax. You have to pay the success tax. Everything is going to cost you money. But I think you're doing something that a lot of authors don't do, is with our friends Ginger and David, swag, swag.
Right.
And a lot of people, they have a business, but if I see them outside, they're not wearing their own swag. They're wearing Nike, they're wearing Jordans. And so talk to us about how important it is not to just have swag, but I think it's important to, if I'm doing a book signing and my kid loves the Jasper book and there's a little Jasper bunny next to it for sale, who's not going to pick it up?
Right. And so you led me right into it. Let's bring them in, the star of the show. And I credit Rob with this because he would not let it go. He was on me to get this made. And I knew I needed it. But quite honestly, and it may sound easy and you might think it's not that hard, but having a stuffed toy is hard if you're shooting for a price point.
Yes.
I'm shooting for a certain price point. I'm not Walt Disney. I'm Doug Barry. And people aren't going to pay $50 for a Jasper doll. But here he is, the little fella, if I can get him in. And he did a job. Looks like he jumped right out of the book. And it took me probably about 2 years to find a business that would get the price point down. I still feel like it's a little high, but like I said, it's very hard unless you're going to buy 5,000 Jaspers to get the price point down. And I can buy 50 of these and set the price. They're $25 plus shipping, which I still think sounds a little high, but I think it's doable. The book itself is, I think, $24. So, it's good. I think right now they're being made overseas. They do a great job. I would like to get manufacturing done in the States. And I did find a company that if I purchase, I think it's 1,000 or 500 Jaspers, the price point comes down to about the same. They're still $1 or $2 more expensive, which in time, if I get the big order, like I plan on going to a Myrtle Beach trade show where all the resorts and all the gift shops up and down the Grand Strand, the East Coast there, go to this. It's like a 3 or 4 day trade show. And if I can go there with my prototype Jasper, as I like to call them, and they're interested in it, well, then I can go to this American company and have them made in the States because I'm going to have that $200 or $300 quantity order. And that's what I'm hoping for. But yeah, I mean, if there's lots of print-on-demand companies out there. I feel like I'm getting long-winded. But I've got Ginger and David. I've got Zazzle.com storefront, and I'm just going to just throw up all kinds. This is Ginger and David. It's a nice tumbler. This is probably the biggest thing I've sold off there.
What was the second one? Zazie?
Zazzle.com. Zazzle. It's free to set up a storefront on there, and they take care of everything, shipping and all that stuff. You don't make much money off of there, but it does get your logo or your company name out there, which I think is probably the most important thing. Here's another cup that Ginger and David do. They do coffee mugs for me. Oh, they do T-shirts. This is a onesie for all the little kids. So they got a onesie with the logo on it, and they got T-shirts with the logo on it. And I mean, when you go to Zazzle, you can have pillows made. Right there's a big old, I don't know how to do it to get it in frame. Big old pillow made of the first cover. I mean, it's endless. Once you open that up, I just ordered a prototype from Zazzle because I want to see what it looks like. But it's on the store. Those little pop things you put on the back of your phone so you can hold it with two fingers while you're doing it.
Yeah, my wife has those. My wife and daughter has those.
So I put an order in to get one of those and see what it looks like. They're a little bit high too because Zazzle is not exactly cheap. It's best I'll be upfront. It's best to buy them when they have a sale as opposed to paying full price for them. But again, it's more about getting the logo out there. That's the important thing. If you're not doing that with your books, I mean, you don't have to go to the extent that I did because not everybody writes a children's book, but you should at least have some kind of logo associated with your author brand that you want. And you should be promoting that at least with some coffee mugs and T-shirts and hats.
But, a lot of people, like for me, when I wrote my second book, I ordered like 100 copies. And I went out to all the local libraries and got them in the libraries, But I think a lot of people think, well, I'm not going to spend whatever it is amount, but I'm like, don't look at the ROI now. Look at the look long term.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're doing is you're actually looking long term. But one thing that me and you are, and I see it between the both of us, we're obsessed. And something that Mr. Carnegie said back in the early 1900s is that your obsessions become your possessions. And I think a lot of people think, and I was talking to Mark Cuban's brother, is a friend of mine. He's also an author. And we talked about Mark, and Mark says, I'm not going to invest in you if you're not invested in you. So, I believe that if you're going in business, you can't go in half-assed. You're all in or you're all out. And unfortunately, as veterans, we go a little bit harder than the average person. So talk about how important it is. I mean, because having a business is like having another wife. It's that important. And like for me, I say no to a lot of stuff now. Like for me, if it's not God, family, friends, and business, I'm probably going to say no. So how important is it to go all in when you're starting a business?
Yeah, the doing something you're passionate about is important. And you're not going to be able to tell by this interview, but I am the worst introvert you probably ever would meet. If I'm in a public setting around a bunch of people I don't know, I'm the guy standing over by the wall, not really mixing it up a whole lot. But if somebody starts talking to me about my books, if they see me, they say, you won't be able to shut me up. Quite honestly, I'll just ramble on. And it's the passion that drives you. And like you were saying, us being military guys, I mean, we don't know what a brick wall is. You just find a way over it, around it, or through it, and you just keep pushing forward. I mean, that's the training we got, and that's just in our DNA at this point. Is we're old men now, so you just keep digging, and you have to have that passion for sure. If I didn't have that passion, I wouldn't be reaching out doing TV interviews and podcasts and all that sort of thing. It does take you out of your comfort zone when you're an introvert at first, but when you have that passion, like I said, you'll talk about your stuff all day long, man. It'd be hard pressed to get you to be quiet about it. And I think I drive a lot of my family and friends crazy because it seems like they'll be talking about something and all of a sudden I'll be like, oh, hey, yeah, another thing about my book. It's, it's like you just can't stop. You can't turn it off, as I like to say. I'll be laying in bed at night just trying to figure out what the next angle is or what the next product is that I could maybe make available at a print-on-demand shop. I just can't turn it off.
So what's on the horizon for Doug Berry in the next, say, 6-12 weeks?
6-12 weeks. Get some good launching on this third book. And once we get that firmly launched, which it drug out a little bit, but there's almost a silver lining because it's gonna hit right before the holidays. So I think that could work in my favor. But we want to get this book done. Book 4 is my Christmas story. It was about 3/4 written, and so often how you do with books, you set them aside for 3 or 4 months, and then you go back and look at them, and there were some parts I just didn't like. So it's like, well, now I got to rewrite this a little bit. So we knocked out the beginning of it a little bit, and I'm going to have to rewrite it. We're back down to about 50% written from 75% because I just didn't like the way I had written some of the stuff. So the next 6 to 12 weeks are going to be the marketing of the third book and trying to nail down the fourth book. I don't want to really start the publishing process of the fourth book right away. I tried to tell my wife, I try to let the previous book pay for the next book. So I don't have a lot of, I still got skin in the game, but it's not breaking us, sending us to the poorhouse either. That's something to be a little bit mindful of. So we'll get the third book established, get some sales up, and probably the beginning of even maybe 2026 before I really get to maybe thinking about publishing the fourth book. But I do have long-term plans. I've been reading Walt Disney's biography, man, and I'm telling you, it'll put thoughts in your head. It's like he turned that little mouse into something pretty huge. And
okay, so let me, because, and this is, I don't know why, I think God has plans, and He puts thoughts in my head. Like when we went to South Carolina, we stopped at Florence, and we went to Buc-ee's.
Oh, huge! Yeah, I've been there many times.
There was Buc-ee's, that little whatever that creature they had, that it was everywhere. So, What would stop you from being the bunny of South Carolina?
Yeah, guts probably. I don't have the guts to put myself out there like I should, but I have been told. Lots of folks have come to me after reading the book and they're like, man, I can see that as a Saturday morning cartoon. I can see that on Nickelodeon. I can see that on the Cartoon Network. And you know what? I think they're right. So it's in the back of my head. I mean, I'm not saying no to anything really. I think it could be a cartoon. Am I going to get positioned where I'm in a position to make that happen? I don't know, but I'm certainly going to keep my feelers out and try to make some opportunities that lead me that way, because, and here's another little nugget of information for folks out there. If you're sitting on the couch waiting for opportunity to knock, you're never going to get off the couch.
Yeah.
You got to go out there and make your own opportunities or it's just never really going to come to you. So, I mean, I've got that in the back of my head. And like you, I mean, I went to, my book is in a bookstore in Chincoteague, Virginia. So last time I was home, I rode out there to actually go see it, but the bookstore was closed, so I couldn't. But on my way through there, I'm looking at Chincoteague, Virginia. It's a little close-knit family entertainment kind of community, like all beach access stuff is. And I'm noticing the little putt-putt golf courses and stuff around. I'm like, there's no reason why I couldn't have a Jasper putt-putt golf course. Buy one that's already established at like a Chincoteague or an Ocean City or a Myrtle Beach. Maybe it got shut down for whatever reason. Do I have enough guts to buy it and redesign it with Jasper and all of his friends all over the place? I don't know if I've got the fortitude for that, but I think it would work. If folks get to love the books and then they go to like their favorite vacation spot. and they happen to be driving down the road and they're like, holy cow, I didn't even know there was a Jasper mini golf course over there. And they can go in there and see all the characters. I think that would be great. I mean, you could design a hole around each book and make the Jaspers and everything the size of the little kids so they can really relate to them actually walking by Jasper and he's the same height as a 4 or 5 year old instead of making a giant rabbit, make all the visual experiences to the height of the 5-year-old. So the people who are supposed to enjoy it the most do.
Yeah. There's so many different ways to go with this.
Yeah.
And I believe God has his hand on your shoulder and he's going to lead you to wherever you need to be. But this is a teaching podcast. So like you just said earlier, if you're sitting on a couch waiting for a book publisher to come here, knock on your door, and you haven't even written a book yet, you're not going to be successful. So if somebody's thinking about writing a book, what would be your top 3 pieces of advice that you have learned since writing these three books?
Top 3 pieces of advice. First thing, and is going to be the obvious one, is start putting pen to paper. Write the book. So many people say they're going to or they'd like to, and they never do. Get the do out of the way and get the book written. Then start doing a little bit of research as to how you want to have it published. And another piece of information that I didn't have when I started, I went after the fact and looked at like the Walmarts and looked at the children's books. And I looked at the publishers that have children's books already in Walmart. And a little light bulb went on. It's like, well, maybe that should be the publishers if I'm ever going to target a traditional publisher. And I'd like to get my books in Walmart. Well, then maybe I should be targeting the publishers who already have books in Walmart. I mean, that just kind of made sense to me. They're already working with them. So I would think it would be a little bit smoother progression if you're going to go that route. And I've lost my train of thought again, and I don't know how many numbers if that was 1, 2, or 3. But but those are 3 good things to think about. And also is the persistence that we talked about earlier, because you're going to hear no. You just got to keep pushing. If that's truly what you're passionate about and you truly want to get your book out there, you have got to keep pushing until it actually happens. And it'll happen. Like I say, you don't, if you ever did fail, you don't fail until you quit. Until you quit, even 1,000,001 odds are still odds.
Yep. Like you said, what do you mean? I still have a chance? So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, and again, I think without the Vetpreneur tribe, we wouldn't have met. And, I've been a member of the Vetpreneur tribe since there was only 500 members. I'm an OG. So, guys, if you're a veteran and you want to be a Vetpreneur, there's no better place than the Vetpreneur tribe.
Definitely.
No
you got to
place.
be connected.
But then if you really want to get serious and you want to join a mastermind, we have something called the Warrior Council. There's 80 of us. We get together every week, talk about how to get forth in your business and actually give you actionable plans to be successful. Join the Vetpreneur tribe first and then ask about the Warrior Council. Maybe for you, maybe not for you. But if you want to be a veteran and an entrepreneur, you need to join the Vetpreneur tribe. And you'll see Rob in there. You'll see Marshall. You'll see Andy. You'll see a lot of different people in the Vetpreneur tribe, including me and Doug. So, guys, if you want to be a Vetpreneur, you need to be in the Vet tribe.
For sure.
So, Doug, I just want to say, brother, I'm so grateful and humbled for your friendship. And when the new book comes out, I'm going to be the first one to be promoting it out everywhere. So I'm very grateful for you and your friendship. And you're a brother in Christ. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you as well. You've been a huge help.
All right. I love you, brother. And guys, I always end this way. I'm a big Joel Osteen guy. And something that he says is that we have a choice every day. We can either be a victim or we can be a victor. And if you guys watch this show and you show up every week, you're no longer a victim of your past, but a victor of your present and your future. Thank you guys for always showing up. Doug, I love you, my brother. Take care.
All right. Take care. Thanks for having me.
I love you. And guys, remember, vertical momentum. The only way to go is up. I love you guys. I will catch you next week.